Continuing from where we left off, if you had any trouble creating these two, I'll just quickly go over how to do this. So both of them will start with a cylinder, and obviously we'll just move it closest to our reference about over here, and then I'll just move it above over here, and then start scaling it. Shift Z and make it as close to our reference as possible, and then S and Z to scale it like this, and then click on Control A to apply the scale. And then you can Shift D to duplicate this one, and then G and Z to move it downward because they have the same basic shape. And with this one I'll just select the top parts and move it about over here, and then select all and Shift Z again. Select all and then Shift Z to make it thinner because this one is thinner. So we're going to select the top part, we're going to click on E, okay, and then we're going to click on the right mouse button, then scale it as wide as this, and then E and Z again to move it on the top part. And there you go, this one is done. And then we'll call it Shade Auto Smooth. And if you want to, you can select the bottom part and click on B to bevel the bottom part, maybe add in a few loop cuts. You can do that the same thing with the top part as well. Control B, do it like this, and then you can also go to solid mode and then Shift and Alt to select this loop cut, and Control and B to bevel it like this. And now you have it. Now with this one, I think it's pretty self-explanatory already. We'll just go to G and move it and draw a side part, and then select the upper and lower part, and then click on Control B to just bevel it like this. And before we continue, please consider subscribing. Only 9% of you are actually subscribed. My goal is to reach 2.5k subs by the end of this year, and drop a like and a comment while you're at it. Solid mode and then Shade Auto Smooth, and we're done. We'll call this soda can, and we'll call this ice cream. I know I'm spelling it wrong, but still. Now for the next part, I'll just go into wireframe, and I'll just call it new collection and call it buttons. Even though there are different stuff, but I'll just go with the buttons one. And I'm just going to Shift A, mesh, and then add in a circle this time, RX, and then 90, and then scale it down to about this size, and then G and X to move it on the side, and G and Z to move it over here. I'll just zoom in by scrolling on my mouse wheel, and then scale it again, G and X to move it on the side, and then scale it again, G and Z, and a little bit over here. Now it's centralized. But now I'm going to click on 3 to go into side view, and I'm going to start moving it to the front about over here. And as you can see, so now I'm going to Control A and apply scale again, and then tab into edit mode. You're going to click on E and then Y to move it outside about over here, as you can see. And tab out and then click on F to fill it, and then click on Control and B to give it a little bit of shape. So I'm just going to click on Shade Auto Smooth. Now Z into wireframe, and now I'm going to add in a modifier, and array modifier, and on the x-axis. So I'll just start increasing it until it's closest to this reference, and then I'm going to click on again to add another one of the buttons. So that we count is 3. And now if you're thinking that how are we going to do this, you don't have to duplicate it. You can add in another array modifier, but this time the second modifier, you're going to change the x factor to 0 and the z factor to 1 for now. And let me just test it. It's a 0 rotation, so the rotation isn't applied, so that's why we can see it. So Control A and apply rotation. So now as you can see, these are above over here. We actually want them to be bottom on the side, so we're going to go into about -1.5. So this looks good, and then we want it to count, and voila, we have all of our buttons in just a small instance. Now again, we're going to go into wireframe mode. This and this are going to be basically made from the same thing. So Shift A, mesh. You can go with cube or plane, whichever you want. I'll just go with a cube, and I'll just call this one buttons, and this one I'll call the first one in this screen. So I'll just G and X and move it on this side over here, and then G and Z to move it about over here, and then we'll just start scaling it. So after we have it on the set position, we'll just start scaling it on the Y about here. I think this looks fine, and we'll start SZ and scale it like about over here. I think this looks good enough. You can again add in a bevel modifier for this, and one other thing you can do is that you can select this. As you can see, I'm selecting a face and click on delete and delete faces, because again it isn't required and it might be messing up with our shape. So with the screen, I have a bevel modifier. I'll just turn the segments to about 3, and the amount I'll actually increase it a little bit more to match our reference. So I'll keep increasing it until our reference looks good, and I'll increase the count because I want this smooth shape. So I'll just decide to move it a little bit outside, and then I'll add another modifier called wireframe modifier. Okay, and the problem is that it's taking all of the wireframe, so I'll actually have to make a duplicate of the screen one. So I'll just shift D and duplicate, and then I'll call it screen border. So with the border one, we'll actually have the bevel. We'll first apply it, and in this original one I'll just remove it, and over here I'll just tab into wireframe mode. We actually only need the outside ring, we don't need the inner part. So to do that, while having the screen border one selected, I'll just take on the wireframe mode, select all of these, and as you can see that this part is inward and this is all unnecessary. So I'll just click on over here and delete vertices, then click on this part and delete vertices, and I only have the border. If the wireframe modifier isn't working, like in this case, I'll just go with the skin modifier, and I'll just move the wireframe modifier. As you can see, we have a thick coating. So tab into edit mode, that the wireframe, select all, and then click on Control A, and you can see that the skin modifier's thickness is decreasing. For some reason they haven't given us any options over here. So as you can see, now we have a border for our screen, and then I can shade out smooth on the screen as well. Now like I said, I wanted these to be the same thing, so I'll just click on the screen, shift D and duplicate it, and then G and Z to move it downward, and I'll call this B pad for now. I'm just randomly naming these as I go along, because again they don't have exactly vending machines where I live. We barely see them in big shopping malls and stuff now. So this is our button pad, and maybe I'll just move this a little bit on the back, and maybe I'll just select it all and scale it. I think this looks good enough, and you can actually just take these buttons, duplicate them, G and Z to move it down, and I'll just call this B button for big button, and I'll remove the array modifiers from this, and then G and Z to move it downward, and G and X to move it over here, and then about over here, and I'll just scale it to match over this part, and then G and Y to move it on the front. And now we have our first button as well. So now the next part is this triangle. So I'm just going to shift a mesh, and then I'm going to select circle. This time we're going to be reducing the let's click on 7 to point top view, and I'm just going to change the vertices to 3. So now we have a triangle. Now I'm just going to 125 and R, X and 90, and then I'll just rotate this until I have the same angle as this one. So I'll just now move it on this side and I think I'm still a little bit of more tilted. I think 59 or maybe 60 is the perfect angle. So now I'll just start scaling this till I see the right side, and then tab into edit mode. I'll just S and X to scale these down, and then G and then select this vertex and G and Z to move it on the top, and G and X to move it maybe on the little bit side, and then move it to the front, and also give it a skin modifier. This automatically gives it a little bit of thickness, and then G and Y to move it outside about over here. Then select it all, Control A to again make the thickness a little less thick, and maybe give it a subsurface modifier. Yeah, I think this looks a little bit more better. Yes, definitely this one looks better. So now this is the circle for what I'll call it try 1. I just want to try 1, and I'll also shift D and duplicate it, remove the skin and subplane surface modifier, tab into edit mode, click on F to fill the face, and I'll add a solidify modifier for it. Again, you can actually go with any one of these two techniques. Maybe 0.03 looks good. Maybe 0.07, maybe a little bit more thicker without vertex. Also, I'll change the offset to 1 so that it's actually outside of it. It can be a little bit harder to actually know what is what. You can actually go over here and object color. Currently it says material. I'll just go with random. So now you can see that everything I have has a random color, and I can actually see that this triangle is actually outside of the main body and not inside. So now I'll just see what else is left. This is the final one. Shift A, mesh plane RX90, GX to move it on this side, and G and Z to move it over here, and then tab into edit mode and then start scaling it to the point where it's like about over here, and then S and X to move it around the width, and then I'll just move it about over here. And we're going to do the same thing we did with this triangle. So I'll just G and Y and move it about over here, give it a solidify modifier, and the thickness should be outside, so the offset is 1, and I'll just give it 0.02. I think looks good. Then we'll just duplicate it, and this time I'm going to remove the wireframe modifier, and we're going to go into wireframe modifier, and with the wireframe I think I would like it to have a little bit more thickness. You can experiment with the subdivision surface modifier if you want to, but I don't think it's going to be working over here right now. Or we can actually go with the just close it, tab into edit mode, select it all, and just click on delete and delete just the faces. So okay, we can just go with the wireframe modifier for the outside part, and we'll just call it boundary. So we'll turn it on boundary, and we can increase the thickness to 0.0, something like this. I think looks good. Now this is supposed to actually look like a vending machine pop-up, so I'll just have to increase it to 0.04 maybe. This part is actually going to be blacked out. This one, what do we call it, cache 1 maybe, I don't know, and I'll just call this one cache 2 just for identification. And if you're wondering why this isn't shade smooth, once you apply the modifiers you can actually shade smooth them properly. So now on to the materials. But before we do texturing, we have to add array modifiers to these bottles and candies. So I will do the array modifier with this one because it's actually the best example, and the other ones are actually a lot more simpler. So first of all, I guess I'll just take all of these and go into side view and then G and Y to move them to the front. About, I think over here looks good, maybe a little bit more. So with this one is the best example because its case is the most different because it's actually tilted. So first we're going to modifiers tab, add modifier, and we'll add in the array modifier. We only need 2 of these, and we're just going to increase the X factor to about here. So now if I try to rotate it, you can see that this is actually the issue that is arising, but don't panic. Once you rotate it with the proper position, click Ctrl A and apply rotation, and now I can actually just change the factor. And this is why I said applying rotation and scale and etc is actually necessary because of issues like this where modifiers don't work properly. Now we'll add in another array modifier, but this time the modifier is going to be on the y-axis. Just change it to 1 for now, and then on the x factor change it to 0, and I'll just go into 3 into side view, Z and wireframe, and maybe we want a little bit of this to be in the front more, and maybe we'll have a little bit more different distance between the two candies, and you can increase the count to however you like. I think this looks good enough. So now we have multiple candies, and as you can see that they have the same color. They don't have a different color because they're still part of the same array object. We will be looking at that right now when we start texting. So the first entry texting, I'll just go into the UV editing because we're going to make a single out of easier for this. I'll just open up the reference image vending machine. Okay, now we have our vending machine. So with 3D, you need to know is that when you actually add a color, unlike 2D, the color will actually be reacting to light, which will in turn result in a difference in color slightly. I'll just go back to the light, and I forgot to do one thing. I'll just turn off my reference for now, and I'll just go into main collection and add in a mesh and a plane. This is actually going to be our background. I'll just move it down over here, and I'll just scale it big. Tab into edit mode, just select this edge and E and Z to move it above. Select this one and click Ctrl and B to bevel it. Tab out and then shade auto smooth. Select it all and then S and X. And now we'll just go into the shading tab, or maybe the UV editing tab. Yes, the UV editing tab looks good enough. So for this one, I'll just select over here on the material tab while having my I'll just call this BG for background, and I'll just click on over here new to create a new material. I'll call it again BG for background, and I'll just go into the base color tab and choose this eyedropper tool from over here to get this bluish sort of color. Let's just go into Z rendered view, and as you can see now my background is sort of a bluish color. Don't worry, we will be fixing the lighting later on as well. Now let's just move on to the body. I'll select the body, and it has this basic material. I don't know which saying to, that means someone else, some other object is also using this base material, but I'll just click over here and call this body M for body main color, and we'll just again use the eyedropper tool and select this color. Okay, but the inner part of this, as you can see that these are a different color. Obviously in 3D you can actually just depend on the shading, but I actually wanted to act like more of an illustration sort of effect. So to do that, I'll just click on the body, tab into edit mode, and then 3 to side view. I'll just go into vertex select mode and Z and wireframe. So this inner part, this is the part where we actually want it to be a darker color. So I'm just going to click on plus. Now we have another material slot. This is not a new material, this is just a slot. So I'll click on new. Now we have a material in our material slot, and then I'll just call it body S for shaded, and I'll just go into Principal VSTF, click over here, and then click and select this color, and now we have this area selected, the inner part. Okay, we just want this one to be darker, so I'll just click on assign. After that, you can just go into material view or Z, and as you can see now this part is by default darker. So as you can easily obviously just assign material by the same method I did, but with these arrays I'll actually tell you how to do this manually, because you need to actually know this stuff through. You can actually add materials over here or here by yourself creating more materials and just dropping them from over here. I'll actually just do the screen one. I'll click on new, call it screen, click over here and select this color, and you can see that this is actually being a little too light, so I'll just make it a slightly more darker. If you actually want to, you obviously have the creativity to do that. Now you can do the rest to yourself. I'll just click over here and I'll just first give it the screen color because it has the same color, but then I actually want another color, and I'll just call this new and I'll call this white. Okay, and now I have this white color and it's this pure white color. I'll tab into edit mode because remember I said that we actually created this loop cut, it will help us out later on, so now it's going to help us out. I'll just go into face select mode, click and drag and select these central faces, and while having this white color selected I click on, let me just show you in the rendered view, click on assign. So now the color is now white. So with the now, as you know, this is how you're going to be creating the rest of them, and you already know how to create the arrays for these bottles and stuff, but with the candies I'll actually show you how to create multiple colors and multiple how to separate them and give all of them different colors. So I'll click on new first, and I'll again call this one yellow color because it has the yellow color. Obviously click and drag and select the yellow color. Now all of them have the yellow color. To separate them, we will first need to apply the array modifier. Okay, we'll apply both of these array modifier, apply and apply. Now as you can see that they're still the singular object, okay, but we want them to have different colors. Now you can obviously just separate them out and then give them different colors, or you can keep them all in a singular object. So it's actually your choice. I'll just go with adding new color and while keeping them as a singular object. You have to have the applied the array modifier to do this, so keep that in mind. And I'll just select the orangish color, then I'll add another color and a slot, material slot, but this time we're just going to be using the screen color screen. So now I can tab into edit mode, Z and then wireframe, and then select the central one. This one was the orange one, and then I'm going to click on this orange color and then click on, let me just show in the rendered view and click on assign. So now the color is changed. Now again Z wireframe, and then I'll box like this rendered view, and this time I'll click the screen color, then click on assign. So now all three of them are different colors. As for this one, you can obviously just do the same thing, add the white color and then add the upper select the upper part and then add the same color, the colored part, just like I did it over here. But for this one you're going to have to do vertical little, so I'll have to show you this one how to do this. So I click on new, call it can, and the base color obviously we're just going to be taking it from over here. Now we're going to go into the shading tab because we'll have to use a little bit of nodes. So I'll just go into the front view and I'll duplicate this and this color black, shift A, again you have to click on shift A to add anything over here as well, and then I'm going to click on mix shader over here, drag and drop it between them or connect these nodes like this, and then click on collect this node like this. Then you can just go ahead and add in a color ramp, place it in, add the color into the factor, then MAPP mapping node, and then shift A texture coordinate node, generated into the vector and the vector into the factor over here. And now we're just going to add in another node called gradient texture, and I'm going to put it in the center over here, and instead of linear, change this on the color ramp to constant, and I'll just start moving it over here. And as you can see right now it's acting like a proper cut between the principal BSGF and the texture coordinate. The black part is actually the pink part, and the white part is actually the black part. So this is getting confusing, so I'll just switch these two so that the black is the black part. Okay, so right now the black part is the black part and the white part is actually the pink part. This will make it easier for me to see what's going on. And also I'll start just rotating it. Maybe on the it's actually going to work on the, you have to actually see this is sort of where it actually gets a little bit confusing one for me. As you can see now, if we start rotating it over here, and if you remember correctly, this was how the tool cuts were. You have to have 119 or something like that into your rotation of y-axis, and then click on over here in the plus sign and move this plus sign to over here, about over here, and maybe we'll just start moving it about over here. I'll change this black part to white and this white part to black, and basically I'm flipping between the colors to see what the result could look like. So right now over here, and then I will click on plus again, add in this black line over here again, and then click on plus again on the white part, and then over here, and now we have our lines. If you want the lines to move even more downward, you have to keep scrolling it down and moving it on the sides. This is can be get a little bit confusing. It's okay if you want to skip this part. So now we have our lines, and if you want to the other colors, when you add the remote part, you simply just have to change this pink color to and all of the other colors, and you can keep the rest of the same. So now we're actually going to be editing the lighting. I'll click over here and just delete this light and select your main body. Okay. Oh, I forgot to texture the legs, give the colors the legs part. Just going to be editing again, and the legs actually have the same color as the inner body. So we're just going to scroll over here, and as you can see the body S part, yes, and now it actually has the darker color of the body S. You can texture the other parts again yourself. It's really easy and it's good practice for you. So now for the lighting, while having the body selected, main body, I actually want this selected, and we're going to go to edit, preferences, and the extensions right on top. You're going to search for try light. Okay, you're going to search over here and type in try light. For me it's actually already installed, but you're going to click on install. Once you have installed it, it's going to be appearing over here in your install tab. Then while having your body selected, click on shift A and light, and we're going to see this 3-point light option. Click it, and you have now a 3-point light set up. This is very good for any beginner who doesn't know much about lighting, and you can just G and Z to move it on the side, and R and Z to rotate them. You can obviously increase their strength as well, but the default, I think it looks good. Secondly, I actually didn't just use this light, I also used an HDRI. So click on this world tab. Okay, it's already says use nodes. Go into shading. Okay, once you're done with everything else, go into shading, and over here from object, go into the world one. Okay, so now we're actually texturing our world setup. Currently it's just a gray blob. I'm going to click on shift A and type on environment. Okay, environment texture, and when I plug it in, you see this is ugly purple color. Basically there's still no image over here, so there will be a link in the description below for freestylized.com, where this you can download the NHDRI, a stylized HDRI, anime style, and you can use any one of those you want to. I'm just going to add in the one I like best. Okay, so I just navigate it and add it. So now that I have added my skybox, or HDRI. Again, you can pick the one you like in from freestylized.com. The link is in the description below. So you can see that the lighting actually looks a lot more dynamic, but we also need to add change the render settings, and we also have to work on the camera. So the render settings by default, if you actually go over here film, and you can see that the colors are not as bright as the one I showed you. Now if I learned it to change that, go to color management, and the currently by default it sets to AGX. Now this is fine if you want a realistic render, but we're going with the stylized one, so we're just going to change this to standard. And as soon as I do that, you can see that the colors are a lot more brighter right now, and they look fairly better. So with lighting, again, you can mess around with what you want. I think this is fine for now. And also the shadows, you can see that the shadows are fading away and stuff like that, but we actually want the shadows to be a little bit more sharp. So I'm just going to change the step from 6 to 1. Okay, and it actually takes up a little bit of time for it to kick in. The render samples are still going to be 64. You can raise them, but I recommend not doing this because this scene doesn't have that much going on. And now you can see that the shadows are sharper. You can actually click and drag and move this to the front to actually see that the result of the sharp shadows. And I'll just select this and adjust this because we moved the background. So now we have to adjust this right now, and I think this looks good. The front should be actually brighter, maybe a little bit more strength, maybe something like 200. This looks better in my opinion. So now our shadows are sharp, we have our HDRI, we have our lighting, we have our colors, materials. Now we're just going to set the camera. To set the camera, I'll click on the camera over here, and you can click on the 0 key on your number pad to see the camera view. If you actually remember, we had a little bit of animation going on. So first I'll just make sure that the camera is in the front view by clicking by making the 90 on the rotation on the x-axis and 0 0 on the y and z axis, and then on all of the locations I'll click and drag and then click on 0 to actually do that. And then I'm going to slowly start moving it backwards so that we can see it like this. Okay, I think this much distance is good enough. And then I'm going to click on Shift A, empty, and I'll just go with a cube this time, and these empties are invisible. Okay, they will not appear in your final render. I'm just going to Z into solid mode. I'll click on my camera and then shift and click on my empty. Okay, and then I'm going to click on Control P to parent them and set parent to object. Okay, so now whatever I do with my empty, I'm clicking my empty. Okay, and my camera is unselected. As you can see, it's not yellow or orange color. I'm going to click on R and then click on Z, and now as you can see that my camera is rotating. So I'll just click on 0 to see the camera view, and then I'm going to do this R and Z, and you can see in the Z axis my values change. So I'll just do that over here because a minus 30 degree centigrade, or degree not centigrade, sorry, minus 30 on the Z axis. We're going to open our timeline, and I just want a 3-second animation. Okay, so I type in 72. So now you're thinking why I'm typing 72, because over here you can see that the frame rate is 24 fps. 24 fps means that 24 frames equals 1 second. So 24 times 3 is 3 seconds this animation is going to last. I'm also going to make the compression go down and the color depth to 16. You can change this RGB to RGB. Okay, and since it's your first time, I guess you can change this to FFmpeg rather than PNG, because if I do the PNG part, it's actually going to be long, but the PNG part actually gives better results. So you can change this to FFmpeg. Okay, and again the color management clicks on follow scene. That means that whatever I set over here is by default being used over there. You can actually change this, but I recommend not doing that and having the default setting done over here. Then the encoding should be you can go with MP4 or H.264 is also works fine, or you can go with MPEG-4 if you want to. So that's right. And then the quality, output quality should be constant bitrate. Okay, this is the best quality, and it will give you the best result, or else it will be pixelated. So now while having my empty selected, okay, not my camera, my empty selected, I'll just go into this tab, and then I'm going to, while I'm having my mouse cursor over here, I'm going to click on I. So now we have keyframes on this axis, and then I'll just go into frame 72, and then instead of minus 30, I'm just going to have it plus 30 to this angle, and then I'm going to click on I again. So now when I skip through this timeline, you can see that there is an animation happening, with respect over here. But the animation by default is actually not linear. By linear it means it should be a constant speed, right? Let me just play and show you. You can see that it isn't linear, it's actually Bezier. It actually starts off slow, then actually goes fast in the center, and then starts slowing down again. I don't want that. I actually want it to be linear, so I'll just right click. And typically you don't want it linear, but in this case actually it works. I'm going to right click on my timeline, okay, while having my keyframe selected. I'm going to click right click on my timeline and change interpolation mode to linear. So now by default it's actually going to be on the same speed from start to finish, so it can easily be looped. Let me just click on play, and as you can see that it is easily looping. To now render your animation, we have all our settings set the way we want it. Okay, you can increase the sample count, but 64 is more than good enough. The render engine is easy. You can actually go over here on the output tab and select wherever you want it. By default it's set to a temp folder. You don't want that. By default you actually want it on a proper place, so click on and set the place where you actually want it to be rendered out. I actually fixed the settings for you, but again the PNG one is actually better. Maybe I'll make a video on how to render PNG frames and then combine them together, but for now you can actually just go to that and then click on render and click on render animation. If you just want an image, you're going to click on render image, or you can click on F12 to just get an image. And as you can see, this is our rendered image singularly. And if you go ahead and click on render animation, and you can see the shortcut is Control F12. Okay, so to do that, and then it will start automatically rendering your animation. So this was our first project video. Again, we will be making other projects as well. So please leave a like and comment, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye. If you found this video helpful, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe to my channel and watch for another one of my videos, as that's how the YouTube algorithm works. It's a small channel and it won't cost you anything. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next video.